They say Europe is built on centuries of stories, cathedrals and kings, revolutions and renaissances. But hidden between those pages is a quieter history. The history of shadows, of men who slipped through the cracks of the ordinary world and leave behind mysteries we still can't fully explain. Tonight, we follow one of those shadows, a story that begins in the narrow streets of Antwerp, Belgium, where diamonds move through the city the way blood moves through veins. Billions of dollars of jewels traded every year by men who trust one another more than they trust the locks on their doors. A city built on relationships, on reputation, and on the belief that their vaults were unbreakable. But nothing, not even the strongest vault in Europe, is unbreakable. It was February 2003, a cold winter morning, the kind where breath hangs in the air like a warning. Across town, jewelers were just waking up, unaware that the heartbeat of their district had already stopped. Somewhere deep underground, the most secure vault in Europe, armed with heat sensors, seismic detectors, magnetic locks, cameras, steel barriers, lay open, silent, and empty. $100 million in diamonds, gold, and jewelry had vanished. No alarms, no alerts, no witnesses. Just the faint smell of something metallic, and a single note of disbelief echoing through the district. How? Investigators would later describe it as impossible. But impossibility is often just a story waiting for the right villain or the right hero to disprove it. The man at the center was named Leonardo Notarbartolo. On paper, a quiet Italian jeweler, soft-spoken, middle-aged, the kind of man who blended icily into a crowd. But beneath that surface lived something else, a mind that saw details the way artists see color and criminals see opportunity. For years, authorities believe he walked the Antwerp Diamond District the same way a cartographer might cross an unmapped landscape, studying routines, listening to conversations, learning which guards liked which cigarettes, which merchants carried habits instead of caution. He became part of the scenery, a ghost with a business card. But even then, even with all that time, Leonardo couldn't have done it alone. And this is where the story turns from crime to legend. Rumor speaks of a crew known as the School of Turin, a group of thieves whose skills bordered on the supernatural. One could crack locks like they were puzzles. Another seemed to melt into shadows. Another had a memory so sharp he could redraw an entire security system after seeing it once. They weren't criminals in the chaotic sense. They were craftsmen, methodical, patient, obsessive, and Antwerp was their masterpiece. And before we go deeper into the heart of this heist, a small ask from us: if you're enjoying this journey into the hidden corners of Europe's past, it would mean the world if you paused for a moment to like this video, share a thought in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know, and it keeps stories like this alive. Alright, back to Antwerp. In the months leading up to the heist, the crew rented a small office inside the very building that housed the vault. They were quiet tenants, paid on time, never caused problems, made friends with the neighbors. All the while, they built a replica of the vault hundreds of kilometers away in Italy, practicing every movement until muscle memory replaced fear. On the night of the heist, they walked into the diamond center through the front door. No guns, no masks, no drama, just calm precision. Down in the basement, they disabled cameras. They tricked heat sensors with layers of foam. They neutralized magnetic locks with a thin piece of metal and patience. Every obstacle had an answer. Every alarm had a lullaby. When they finally opened the vault, its enormous steel door swinging slow and heavy, the men just stood there for a moment, breathing in cold air that hadn't touched human skin in years. Inside, 100 safe deposit boxes waited in the dark. They opened 99. When dawn arrived, the thieves were already in their cars, driving toward the Italian border. Behind them, Antwerp woke up to a nightmare. And yet, something about the ending doesn't add up. Because, despite the brilliance of the operation, despite years of preparation, there was a single mistake. A bag of trash thrown into the woods, filled with half-burned evidence. Leonardo insists he panicked. Investigators don't believe him. Maybe the crew turned on each other. Maybe something went wrong we'll never know about. Leonardo was arrested. He served his sentence. But the diamonds, most were never found. To this day, people ask him where they went, and every time, he gives the same answer: I don't know. Sometimes he says it with a smile, sometimes with a sigh. But always with the sense of a man who knows more than he's willing or allowed to say. What makes the Antwerp Diamond Heist so captivating isn't just the money. It's the contradiction at its heart. A crime so precise, so elegant, so strangely respectful, no violence, no chaos, led by a man who still insists he was only a piece of a much larger puzzle. Maybe that's what truly haunts Antwerp. Not the loss of millions, but the feeling that, somewhere out there, a crew of artists in the art of theft walked away with the perfect crime, and left behind nothing but questions. In a world obsessed with surveillance, with data, with airtight security, the Antwerp heist is a reminder of something uncomfortable, that human systems, no matter how advanced, are still human. And as long as people dream in the dark corners of the world, there will always be someone looking for a way in. As you finish this story, try to imagine the moment the thieves first opened that vault. The flicker of a flashlight sweeping across glittering stones. The quiet hum of machines, silenced. The realization that they had done something no one else had ever managed to do. For a few seconds, it must have felt like triumph. But triumph fades. Mystery endures. And maybe that's why this heist still lives in whispers across Europe, not because of what was taken, but because of everything we still don't know.
Case closed on this chapter, but the world is full of unsolved questions. Join the investigation by subscribing now.